Hey, 7th grade. All right, so our next project is going to be monster dolls, so you will need to know a couple techniques for sewing. What we're going to do before you start sewing on your animal or your monster. So we're going to practice sew on paper here first. So that way I know that you're doing it right, you know that you're doing it right, and then you don't have to redo your sewing on your monster, which gets frustrating. What you're going to need is a needle, some thread, a button, and a piece of paper. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use a little bit thicker thread so that way you can easily see what I'm doing. You guys are going to be using the thinner thread, which makes it a lot easier to actually thread your needle compared to this thicker stuff here. So once you have thread your needle, you can do two options here. You could either pull and line up your ends here. So line up your ends and tie a knot at the ends. So you could tie a knot here at the end, and that way you have double the string, and you also kind of have that starter knot for you. So you could tie a knot at the end, or what you could also do is, whoop, I unthreaded it here. Let's see if I can rethread my needle. There we go. Or you could tie a knot right at your needle. That way, if your thread won't come undone from your needle, and you won't have to keep trying to thread your needle over again. So I double knot that at your needle, so you have a knot at your needle. That way your thread won't come out of your needle. Alright, so as you start, there's two different techniques that we're going to do. I like to call it the over-under, just to kind of keep it simple. So you're going to go up from the bottom of your paper, try not to poke yourself. You're going to pull through, pull out quite a bit of string. And then we're going to go back down. So here we did the over, and now if you flip it over, and go back through again, we have the over and the under. So the under here would be this part that you wouldn't see, because that would be in the back. There we go. And just keep going. And actually, the closer that you make your stitches is the better. So go over top, over under, and do a couple of these just so I know that you understand the process here. Then I like to call, the next one I like to do call is the loop around. So you can either pull out your string or continue with the extra that you have. So I'm just going to continue here. And because I came out the back, we're going to wrap it around the edge and go back through the front. And you just keep going through the front. So you wrap it around the edge. So I like to call it the loop around. So you're just looping around the edge here. And do a couple of those just so I know that you get the process. Okay, so it would be best if you left these in. Get enough long enough string just to kind of keep going. Then from there we're going to learn how to sew a button on. The buttons are used for just kind of decoration for your monster, or for their good use for the eyes and other things. So this is a little bit trickier. So this is a 4 button, which is in the box that you have to look through. There's also two hole button, or even just kind of a 1 hole loop button as well. What you're going to want to do is kind of poke through your paper and poke through one of the holes on your buttons and then kind of place it on your paper like that. You're going to want to hold it with your finger so your button stays on your paper. Make sure your finger is out of the way because you're going to poke through the hole across from the hole that you were in. Okay? Hopefully you can see that and make sense. Without poking your finger, see how close that is? And then pull nice and tight so that way your button stays there. Then it's a guessing game. You're going to want to poke a hole as close as possible to get through your other holes that you have not gone through yet. Okay? Pull, pull, pull. Once you're through that hole, you're going to go through the opposite hole that you haven't been in either and punch that through. So now you have a nice X going on here. And you want to keep that X going on, so then you're going to start over at the beginning hole. And if you look at the back, you can see, so this is my beginning hole here. If I just punch a hole kind of close to it, I should be able to poke right through. And you want to do this probably at least 2 times, get nice 2 amount of strings through your button so that way it holds and it stays nice and tight. So this would be my second time around. And that way I know that your button won't fall off. Okay. And if you had extra when you actually are sewing buttons onto your monster, you would just tie your extra string together in a knot in the back. So this is our next step. When you get done with this, or if you have questions, come see me. I will check this over, make sure you understand it, and then you can start sewing your monster fabric together using one of these 2 types of sewing. And this is only if you plan on sewing buttons on. You don't have to, but it's a good idea. It gives it a little bit something extra. If you decide to do face marks, so if you plan on sewing your mouth in or sewing your eyes in onto your monster, my suggestion is to do the over-under for a mouth, and you would just basically, here, I'll show you here quick. So here's my start of the mouth, and when I come back up, I want to come up really close to the hole where I went down. I don't want to have a big space there because your mouth shouldn't have spaces in it. So just get really close. If you go back through get too close and go back through the same hole, it'll undo what you just did. So that was a good example. So that's what you could do with your mouth. For your eyes, you could do probably crisscross eyes and kind of do your over-under. But then this time, so we have 1 crisscross, and we want to kind of just make an X. So then we're going to pop up over here and go right across. Kind of how we did our button, but that way you could just have an X for an eye, and that works just fine. Okay? Good luck. If you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, get to work. Thanks.